Well, I've had many happy times. I've lived in so many different places and so on and so forth. But actually, Monkton Arts has been one of the happiest, to be quite honest, because I suddenly realised at this great age of mine that there are people who respect everybody. They're not dismissing us as used by or whatever. And I've met a lot of wonderful people who've done amazing things in their lives, and they've gathered in here, and it's been terrific.
Well, if I start when the sun is shining, because the winter is just so long. Happiest. I'm probably happiest when my girls are here. That's probably I'm happiest. I have 3 daughters. One lives quite close to us, so that's good. Just across the road, really. And the others, one in London and one in Thailand at the moment. So I'm happiest when they come.
What do I do for enjoyment? Read, I think, mostly, or listen to music. Classical music, mostly. Oh, yes. I love folk music. In fact, I'm very disappointed at the BBC because on Friday nights they put on music from different periods. And one night I got terribly excited because they said they had music of the 60s. Well, it was all Cilla Black and co. I was thinking of, Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and the people I remember from the 60s.
What do I do to relax? Work. That may seem strange, but actually my background is horticulture. And I just love horticulture, so I do gardening, but also I'm involved in lots of projects to get community gardening, both here and in London. So I've got various voluntary jobs in London and working here with people like Jenna and the council and others to do some sustainable greening, if you like, and get people together to do it.
I love classical music. It just is good for the soul. And because I live on my own, I can have it on all day long. My late husband used to say, "Oh, Classic FM again," and and I said, "Well, you can go outside, go in the garden." But no, I love my music. That is the way I relax. Yes.
Mostly gardening, and in the evenings, music.
My pastime is art, and that came to me late in life, because prior to that I had the sort of long working life. I was a singer, folk singer first of all, for a long period of time. Then my husband and I both got involved in films, so we went to Los Angeles, and then I worked for a film company, and then eventually I came back here. So I was very interested in art in Los Angeles, where everything is very colourful, and one of my close neighbours was David Hockney, so that gave me a sense of wanting to do art. But it wasn't until I came here that I had the time and the space to do art. And then there's also, I've always loved gardens and things, but I never had one. City dwellers live in flats, and so when I came here I have a house with a garden, so I do a lot of work in the garden.
Yeah, I like cooking. Yeah, I like to make new dishes. Just enjoy whatever comes in your way. Don't think of tomorrow. Just live as it's the last day of life and enjoy.
In my garden, or in my allotment, doing sort of growing things. They don't talk back. They're sort of, and generally perform. But that's now. And also with, my grandchildren and whatever. It's nice to have family times. So either of those. But my garden sort of, at the moment, certainly is the thing that my husband and I have worked on.
I was at Bretton Hall, you know, the sculpture park in Yorkshire in the 70s. I'd been married at 18 and I'd left art school. I was at Batley doing a foundation course. I was very anti-authority really, I think is the word. But I thought, well, if I get into school a bit, I can sort of stir things up a little bit, which would be, you know, pass other ideas on rather than rigid establishment thinking then. But that's when you're 22, 23.
Music, basically music. It's all down to hopefully live music. Thursday nights in the Solent, open mic night, I don't know whether you know it, but it's been just like family. Absolutely brilliant.
I think properly sailing was the moments we had. Although they weren't always peaceful if we came across a bar or something and couldn't get in at night. Peace for a second was waking from op, not able to speak. Yes, it was actually. John went into the op with the knowledge that if, after being from the theatre and everything, his voice was quite special and important to him. But with the cancer, and he got that second operation, it was in his throat, and they more or less said that it might be attached to the bone, in which case we close you up and do nothing. If we take it out, you probably won't be able to speak. So he was in the strange situation of waking up not able to speak, but he was glad.
Motorbikes for me. Been a lifetime passion. Well, I think it's the freedom that they've always given me. They gave me freedom when I was a young teenager in London, and they've given me a freedom ever since. You don't think about anything else when you're riding. Well, you shouldn't think about anything else when you're riding a motorbike. You should be concentrating on riding the bike. Yeah, and it's a great thing for camaraderie as well.
We've got 6 bikes between us. You meant yes, cycling.
I love the arts. I love the arts, and I'm involved in all of the arts on the island.
Well, my wiser self would say stop and recognise that you need to establish relationships very strongly. Don't shy away from them. But my normal self says, well, I have had such a various life that it's actually been quite interesting, not necessarily being tied down to anyone in particular.
I'm happy reading. I read an awful lot. Rubbish too, because you don't know until you've read it. I like to read a lot, so I don't watch television anymore. A little bit on the internet, but I think I'm probably happiest reading or when my girls are here. Day to day it's reading. If I've got a good book. Because now I'm retired, I don't work, so I have time. Before I didn't really have time. The job I had was you could read a little bit and then somebody would turn up. I used to mend windscreens up in Tesco. So you'd be reading, but you could only read rubbish books, something you could put down and not be thinking about it. So that's about it.
Well, I've done it all my life. Bit of a rebellious youth. And I'm not happy with the world, so one of the big things was to go walking the countryside. So I got an interest in, I suppose, the environment at an early age. And although I aspired to be an artist, as we all do at a tender age, you know, and have my artist studio in a garret, I love gardening. So I became an apprentice with the Royal Parks. And that's how my love of horticulture came about, and I did it all my life and still do.
cancer when I was only 32, and I had 3 tiny children, and the fact that I nearly died, but was able to come back again. I had what they called a near-death experience. I don't know whether you've ever heard of that. It's an out-of-body experience, and you come out of your body, and then you go up this bright tunnel of light. But it wasn't my time, and they sent me back. And I think it made me appreciate life more. And I was able to talk to other people about my experience, and they found it very interesting. And I said, I know there's lots of non-believers out there, but I believe that you really do go to a better place. And I think it's helped me as a person. I think it's made me a nicer person, if that's possible.
Mostly opera, but can be anything. I don't, I like all sorts of things, but opera is my first love. Well, my last occupation, I was working for one property developer who had 2 firms, and I used to design interiors, and because of all my other skills I could make them work. My boss was a constructional engineer, and he said if my designs could work, go ahead. And I loved it, I really did.
When I come in this country, we were living in Lavender Hill, Battersea, and I was doing a job in Phillips Croydon. Until then I had a shop in Southfields, Wimbledon, similar newsagent shop. And as my daughter was young, I couldn't look after both of them. So we sold it, tried to work as a part-time. And then as she grew up, and we just moved here for nice and peaceful life. And I can look after her properly.
We moved around quite a lot, and we happened to, I feel, hit various peak points in various cities. For instance, we were in Dublin in the 50s, which was a very creative time to be in Dublin. And then we moved back to London in the 60s, so we had the 60s in London. And my husband was American, so he became the program director of the National Film Theatre and the London Film Festival. So then we had a kind of film group of people there, and my 2 brothers are writers, so that became another part of the culture. So without being name specific, we had a very good social life going on there.
Started off going to university, a degree in modern languages and philosophy. And then we lived abroad in the Caribbean. I eventually got fed up of sitting under a palm tree. Two days later I was teaching A-level English, and as a Scottish nationalist I'd refused to read Shakespeare. I'd always read the Scottish poets. And from there, various teaching jobs, always teaching kids to run their own businesses, trying to get them to be entrepreneurs, trying to realise that getting a job didn't actually mean just getting a job. It meant perhaps doing something for yourself, getting a skill and then doing something for yourself. I spent most of my life doing that sort of thing.
You know, I never had the chance to see my kids grow up because I was working away all the time as a lorry driver in Europe. You know, so they call them truck drivers now, but I'm old enough to have been a lorry driver. You know, so it's a long time ago. But I've been retired now 20 years. The heart gave out, so they said you can't have a licence anymore. So off I went.
You start redirecting and finding something else to work towards. I think our worst thing would be that to be left without anything to work towards. No, hope is the worst thing.